Thank you guys all for coming. I've been taking a class on reading, and I wrote a staff development about strategies for improving comprehension of information texts. So we're going to, it's kind of tailored to third grade in our curriculum, and so why do we read informational texts? Why do the students need to learn that? Well, they read them in middle school, high school, milestones, college for tests. They read biographies, web pages, all kinds of things. We use informational texts for really more than fiction. I pulled the data from our first DA, and the grade level scored a 34% average on the standard. Determine the main idea of a text, recount key details, and explain how they support the main idea. So I pulled that as my focus for this staff development for some more ideas, because obviously that's an area that we're lacking. Big surprise. So comprehending nonfiction is important because they need to be able to read nonfiction to succeed on district assessments, those lovely DAs. Our state assessments milestones are heavy into nonfiction. Classroom assignments, future grade levels, and for the rest of their lives. I usually tell the students, how many times do you think somebody hands your mom a story about a puppy and some questions to answer about it? Not often. So usually she has to read directions for a project, she has to read newsletters, she has to read the paper, she has to read an election ballot, she has to read recipes. All kinds of nonfiction is really what we do the rest of our lives, except for pleasure reading. So it needs to be a focus. Informational literacy is a key factor in successful participation in society. So if you think about a recent election, all that people had to be able to read and understand to be able to vote. So why do you think we read less nonfiction in the elementary classroom?
It's harder to read and understand.
It's not
Okay.
exciting.
Okay.
They can't relate sometimes to it. True. Because it's not about themselves or people like them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the puppy.
Yeah. All right. I found this quote that I kind of loved. It's long, but it summed up a lot of points that I think is the reason. Primary and elementary students lack exposure to reading informational text because teachers emphasize story over informational texts and often read aloud narratives rather than support independent reading of informational texts, either in class or as homework. When science is taught, inquiry-based instruction through hands-on experiences often minimizes textbooks. And since the testing requirements for No Child Left Behind were enacted, 71% of elementary school districts nationwide have reduced time spent on subjects other than reading and math. In many California schools, students receive little or no social studies or science instruction because what gets tested gets taught. So I thought this quote was really great. I put it in my PowerPoint, and then I was looking at it again, and I got a little grumpy because, of course, teachers emphasize story because think about our Common Core standards. To identify setting, characters, problem, solution, inferencing, predictions. It's all related to fictional reading. And so, yeah, that's our curriculum. Sorry. And then science, when science is taught through hands-on experiences, well, I'm sorry, but science is better taught through hands-on experiences instead of the textbook. So we're doing a good job there to not hand out the book, read this passage, answer these questions, because that's how I was taught science in the 70s, was read the chapter and answer the questions at the end in complete sentences with good handwriting. But we didn't do any science experiments, ever. And then No Child Left Behind and milestones, we aren't given milestones anymore in science and social studies. We're still teaching it in Gwinnett. But what gets tested gets taught. And honestly, in third grade, if they can't read and do math, that's what you need to focus on anyway, So I like this quote because it does draw attention to the problem, but I think there's valid reasons for us doing less informational text instruction in third grade. So I came up with three tools that we're going to use for teaching comprehension of informational text, and we're going to include reading, speaking, writing, graphic organizers, technology, and cooperative learning in all of them. So that's good stuff. You like that teacher there? That's me.
I like that chalkboard.
I had one of those. My mom and dad got it at a garage sale, and my sister and I played school with it. It flipped and the other side was green or something.
Yeah, I had that.
Yes.
Did you? In your classroom or at home?
No, at home.
All right, so we're going to look at the first one. It's called Question the Author. If you want to take one and pass it. Isn't that funny? We lined up our doll babies, and they were the students. All right, so the front has the directions for the strategy, and the back has the worksheet you're going to give the students. I love that. All right, so for this strategy, and I tried to pull all the strategies that I pulled. You can pretty much implement them with any text, science, social studies, our biographies, anything you're teaching, you can pull it out and use it. I left them kind of blank. The real question, the author's strategy, involves making a worksheet to go with the passage where it stops them at different points in the passage and asks, well, what's the author's purpose here? What's the author trying to convince you of? And to me, that was a little cumbersome to plan and write that for every time you wanted to use it. So instead, I've got just a general page, and before they read the article, let me pass you an article so you can, I picked this one just for you, maybe. Well, all of you, because you love cockroaches so much.
Oh my gosh. It's for Lucy.
Notice this real small, it says Lexile 440 and Lexile 710, so take one of each, because they're written on different reading levels. It's a bug. It's a bug.
That's what we had to write about with Lucy Coffin.
This is exactly what junior grade book says.
Really? Cool.
Junior grade books.
Is that part of your gifted curriculum?
I'm using it with reading.
So that you give them the article and let them read the topic or the title and look at any pictures and captions that are in the article. And then just glancing at it, what's a question that you have before you read the article? Maybe you have a question that pops into their head?
How long are these bugs in
Yes. You have all those prickly things.
Mhm.
Yes.
So they're going to easily pop up with questions, especially if you have an engaging article, which I'm going to show you in a minute how to find those. But they're going to write down 3 questions. If you look at this page, it's on the back of your directions. They're going to write down 3 questions that they have before reading. So that sets your purpose for reading. They're intrigued, they're interested, they want to read. And you know, when you're reading with a purpose, you're going to comprehend more than just reading. So then during reading the article, what I do is I have them read to a certain point, and I silently in my reading group, not out loud, but have them read and say, when you get to this point, stop and jot a question. So they'll write another question that they have. And then share the questions with the group, and the ones before too, have the group share their questions before they start. So if someone's having a hard time coming up with a question, they can jot down something that somebody else said too. Then read another section of the article, have them stop and write another question, ask their friends the question before you move on. Read the third section of the article, have them jot one more question. And what I found when I did this with my reading groups is it was very enlightening as to the ones that were not comprehending what they were reading. Because their questions were answered in the text, and they totally missed it. Or their questions were really unrelated because they were posing, you know. And the text is on their reading level because you can adjust the article, so it was not too hard for them. And their friends in the reading group would say, well, it said that, and they would call them out on it. So it was kind of fun. And then, because they were like, oh, I guess it was a good check. You know, I guess I'm not really reading. I guess I'm not comprehending. If you don't have metacognition going on, then we'll give you some cognition from your friends.
Yeah.
And then when they finish reading the article, have them take a minute and write 3 questions that they still have, that the author maybe didn't answer. And they will. They'll have questions that weren't covered in the article. And this is also very telling, because if they did not read the whole thing, their questions because the obvious questions are answered in the article, and that's usually what your kids will think of as the obvious questions. But it also helped me see some of my low readers were really thinking through the article because they had some pretty sophisticated questions at the end.
Wow.
And we shared those questions too, and that was another, check. If somebody else had read the answer to that, they would share the answer and say, oh, that was in there. Okay?
Awesome.
So this is just a blank. You can use it with any of our nonfiction books. In the book room, you can use it with any article. So benefits, it encourages metacognition, it gives a purpose for reading, encourages discussion while you're reading, and it reveals the level of comprehension that they have in silent reading. And I encourage you to use it with silent reading, have them read it independently, even though you're in a group, just to give them time to practice that. And then, if you haven't discovered newsella.com, it's news and then ELA, English Language Arts. You can subscribe for free with your teacher email account, and they'll give you a daily email that tells you the articles that they have available, just a snippet in the topic of your email. When you open it up and go to their website, you can choose 4 different Lexile levels for those articles. So it gives you the highest one, so you get the most information. But you can click on different levels and print it. You can assign them electronically. I'm not there yet, so I'm printing them. But you can print it, and it doesn't say on the page that you print what the Lexile is. I usually write it in there so I don't forget. But here's some more. This one, and they're really great articles, and they're current. And we did one about Girl Scouts wanting statues of women at the park. In Central Park, there's 20 statues, and 2 of them are women, and those 2 are Alice in Wonderland and Mother Goose, I think. So they're not real people, and so the Girl Scouts were saying, we need, and so we were learning about Susan B. Anthony right then, because it was probably coming up to the election is why they were doing it. And so the kids, and I told them, this happened last week. They had this march and this rally, the girls, and they were like, what? This happened last week? So it's very applicable, and so usually, a lot of times I delete it, but a lot of the articles that come up are really interesting. The other one that I copied was about ball chairs in the classroom and why they're good, and they have funky stools too in this other classroom. So it's really, you can choose applicable nonfiction reading that they can do. So if you guys want to pass these around and I just copied 2 more sets. One of them has the quiz in there. I wanted to show you that the articles come with a quiz too, like 4 or 5 questions that you can use. So you could assign them for homework. But I just really love being able to tailor. I use 740, 770 Lexile for the most of the class, but then my low reading group, I change it to 550 for them. When you change it down, it does lose some content and it loses some writing style. It's kind of boring. So try not to unless you need to, but sign up for Newsella. It's really fun to apply it in. It was funny when we read the article about the Girl Scouts. They were like, well, remember when we read about Susan B. Anthony and there was that statue in Rochester of her? Why did they want another statue? So we had to talk about where Central Park is and how it's New York, but it's pretty far from New York City.
Yes.
And so they had some really good questions about it.
Awesome.
Thanks. All right, the next one is a discussion web. And this is so intriguing. Here's the handout. This is another one that really takes 0 prep before you get to your lesson. And you can use it in any subject area. It's going to help them generate a purpose for reading, like we talked about. It's going to help them find main ideas and supporting details in the passage they're reading. This one's even better about isolating those supporting details. It's going to help them with speaking and listening. They're going to use technology and graphic organizers as well. So this is how it works. You put partners together and you give them a nonfiction passage to read. It can be a chapter in their science book. It can be a couple pages in their science book. And you give them a question. And my example was, which magnet is the best magnet out of natural magnets, electromagnets, temporary magnets, horseshoe magnets, all the ones that we study. have them read the text, and then they pick a position and they jot down details to support their position, okay, on their whiteboard or whatever. The two of them talk together after they've read. Then you put them together with another pair, or you could do a group of 6, and give them about 5 minutes, and they've got to come to an agreement. For me, I would probably put non-agreeing pairs together and make them prove their support. That way, if they have lame reasons down, the other group's going to be that's lame, and they're going to give them better reasons, you know. Or if they didn't put any reasons down, okay, well, we'll go with your answer. But they've got to talk and discuss and persuade to be able to convince them. Then they're going to create a Poplet with that other group. And I'm going to show you. Have you guys used Poplet before?
No.
Okay, I discovered this last year. I think it's on your sheet. Oh, here we go. I discovered this last year in one of my classes, and it's so easy to use. You can log in and they can get so many free Poplets before you have to pay for the account. I think it's like 15 or so, it's a lot. But all they do to, looks like this is a finished one that I saved, and I can't get to a new one, but they just click on this and drag it out and click again, and it gives them another thing to type in. They can change the colors of it. They can change the font size. They can, but not a ton, so it's not like tempting for them to spend 10 years on their Poplet. But then they could create this with their group of 4 or 6 on your laptop, and then present it to the class to show them, to convince the class, you know, the electromagnet is the best magnet. And they have to give reasons. So this is practice for them using a graphic organizer, using technology along with it. So then you'll only have about 6 groups then presenting to the class what the best one is. And then here's some other examples you could use for a discussion web. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, should we have joined the war sooner? Yes or no? Is slavery right for Frederick Douglass? Might not have a lot of conflict on that one. Unless you prompted some kids to try to take the other side, which you probably could, you know.
Play devil's advocate.
Exactly, yeah. Susan B. Anthony, should women have the right to vote? Again, some of the boys might say,
Yeah.
you know, just to be ornery, they might be like, no, they shouldn't. Cesar Chavez, should migrant workers have equal rights? Lyndon B. Johnson, should schools be segregated? Rocks and minerals, which type of rock is most exciting? So just any question you can come up with to create controversy. And I think they get sucked into trying to convince somebody that they're right, you know, and arguing, probably more in 4th or 5th grade, but I think we have some 3rd graders that are pretty good at that too. So any topic you've got that has a yes or a no or a 2 choices, you can pull this out and use the discussion web with.
Awesome.
Any other ideas for when you might want to use it or ways it might work?
All of yours are fabulous.
Thank you, Mitch. I know they like talking and convincing. So when they can meet with a partner and talk and convince, and so as they're reading about their magnets or whatever, they're really going to be searching for those details to support their main idea. And when they make the Poplet, then they've got their main idea and their details around it, so they're going to focus on that. All right, so the 3rd one is, I don't have a handout for this one because it's pretty simple. Just interview the character. You give them each 5 index cards. So as they're reading about Mary McLeod Bethune or whatever, they write down 5 questions that they might ask her. And then on the back, they're going to write the answer in her words. Like, how would she talk? Okay, how would she say that? So you can talk about voice and audience and, you know, kind of getting inside her head. On the back, they write the answer. Then they're going to pair up with a partner, and they can video. Do you guys know how to use the camera on the laptops? It's easy. You just open the Microsoft Movie Maker. And they've done it in specials, in tech specials, but it's super easy to use. You just have to find a place for them to not all video in the same classroom,
Right.
so it's not so
You can hear 'em.
loud, yeah. But then they'll pair up with a partner, and the partner can ask them their questions, and they can answer it in the voice of their character and pretend that they're that character. You can upload the video to the discussion board. Jacob helped us do this last year with our video book reports that we did. It's real easy to do. He can do it with the whole class, step by step, and then they can watch each other's videos and comment on the discussion board. Or you could show them, of course, in the class, but they love getting on there and watching each other's. So some ideas in science, they could,
Interview the magnet, I love it.
I mean, ask
Yeah.
the magnet,
Yeah.
Have you been around forever? Are you gonna stay around forever? Can we turn you on and off? Can we, they're gonna have to really understand the content to be able to do
Right.
that,
Yes.
you know? So that, they're gonna have to dig to find what they could ask, Because they're gonna start with, what color are you? And you wanna guide them towards, questions that show what they know. In social studies, they could interview the American hero we're studying. In language arts, interview the character in the book. In math, interview the geometric figure, hi, Mr. Trapezoid. And when they're doing their interview, they could wear the trapezoid on their, cut one out of paper and put it on Mr. Trapezoid. So what are some other things they could interview in our what else do we read about nonfiction? Types of soil?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Rock, a different rock.
Rocks,
Mhm.
the rock
There's
cycle.
Adaptation.
Yes, interview a metamorphic rock.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Got lots of good questions for that.
How did you
Yeah.
become a rock?
Yeah.
What are some of the names of the rocks what are some of the names of your brothers and sisters?
Yeah, yeah.
Interview animals in their habitats.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So this wouldn't take very long, I don't think, for them to write 5 questions and write 5 answers, and then book Jacob to come in and show them how to video themselves and record it. But there's a lot of synthesizing going on
Mhm.
when they're trying to write those questions and come up with the answers and make it interesting. You have to really know what they're talking about. All right, and then before I go on, I've got a few more quotes to share. Do you guys have any questions about the question the author or the discussion web or interview the character?
You're doing a great job.
Great
I love those ideas.
Great strategies. If students are to meet the writing demands stated in the core standards, they need regular opportunities across the learning day to engage in a range of writing tasks. And we've all been doing that, trying to integrate writing into every subject area. So these are a few strategies that they're going to have to write for all of these that you can pull out with any of your subjects. Why write to learn? And it's kind of an inquiry model, what we've been doing today. A lot of these based on having them start from the point of a question to find the answer, to seek the answer. Inquiry meets the needs of all students, particularly those who are reluctant, because it makes the purpose of learning explicit. It provides opportunities to make and do things with what is learned. So you can think about today, they've made an interview, they've made they've written questions, they've made a Poplet to present to the class. It helps students take their identities as learners, and perhaps most important, allows students to achieve visible signs of confidence, deep understanding, and actual accomplishment. So with each of these activities, they're really going to feel like they understand and know because they've presented something, they've completed something, they've explained it to their partner, argued it with another group, explained it to the class. They're going to get that content. And I like this. Inquiry is a particularly democratic form of teaching. It's uncomfortable for a lot of us to have them start with a question and try to find the answer because we just want to stand up and tell them the answer. Inquiry is a particularly democratic form of teaching and learning that privileges pre-existing interests. They can start with what they want to learn about, pick the magnet that they want to learn about, pick the person they want to interview. It privileges their unique perspectives on things and the various strengths of students who typically may be marginalized in school. So you'll have some kids that'll shine on that making the video thing, they'll be so good at it. Showing the other kids how to do the video, the movie. I've had some of my low babies really technology proficient and they shine in that. Or maybe when they don't have to answer 20 questions on the worksheet, they just have to write 5 questions on index cards. They can do well on that, you know, and feel good about what they did. And references of several articles. And that's all.
Awesome.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Great job.
Good job.
Do you want to press to stop the camera? Yeah. Thank you. We'll just keep.
Awesome.
It's been hard.